What's up guys, my name is Ace, and welcome to today's episode of Spawn Guides, the series where I cover all of the most common spawns and how they behave on every map in Call of Duty Ghosts for Domination. In today's episode, we're going to be covering one of my least favorite maps in the game, and that is Stormfront. Let's get into it. Alright, so as always with my little disclaimer at the beginning, if you guys are new to the series and you haven't seen the prelude, make sure you go and check that out first because it introduces a base of knowledge that you need to be able to understand exactly what I'm talking about throughout this series. I'll leave you guys an annotation link right here as well as a link in the description. Okay, so let's bring up the spawn map for Stormfront. So Stormfront is kind of a medium to larger size map and there are quite a few spawns as you can see. And one thing that's also interesting to point out is these spawns aren't all right along the edges of the map. Some of them are pushed more towards the middle of the map, and this can create some issues for some people. For the A flag, all of the common spawns are pushed more towards the top right side of the map, and there really aren't any over towards the left side of the map, so it's really important to know this. The only spawn that's really worth mentioning here that I really want to point out is the one that you can see the picture of in the very bottom left right now. I just want to point out that this is actually on the bottom floor and not on the top floor because just looking at the map it could be a little bit confusing, so just keep that in mind as we're going through this. Moving on to the B flag, the spawns that are on the right side, they're in kind of weird places, so just make sure you take note of exactly where those are by looking at the pictures. And the spawns on the left, the three of those spawns that are in that building there, these are probably the most important spawns in the game for Domination. The reason for this is if you hold those spawns, it's very easy to hold map control. Let's just say you hold those spawns as well as the A flag, and you hold the B flag, and so you're spawning at those spawns. It's very easy to keep the enemy team contained at C. And similarly, if you hold the C flag and the B flag, and you're spawning at those spawns, maybe your teammates have anchored you up to those spawns, you can very easily hold that map control up towards the A flag. So these three spawns are extremely important to have control over. For the C flag, we have 6 really common spawns, and you'll notice once again they're all pushed over to one side of the map. This time they're on the left side, which is the opposite of where the A spawns are. They're all kind of pushed over to the right side. And I think this is part of the reason why I don't like this map very much. There isn't a whole lot of flow. You're always going to be spawning towards that left side, so there's not much incentive for you to push around to the right side. So it's going to end up you're pushing the left side only, and it just ends up in kind of a stalemate, and you're just pushing head on against your enemies. And there's just not a whole lot of flow in my opinion. And I think a lot of that has to do with the way that these spawns are laid out. But we don't have any control over that, so we just have to adapt to the way that the game is. As for these specific spawn points, there's really nothing worth mentioning. They all behave exactly the way you would expect them to behave. They're anchored by teammates and they're blocked by enemies. Okay, so finally we have this spawn right here. And I have it labeled as a shared spawn, but in reality it is a B spawn that is kind of odd. Sometimes you will spawn here if you only hold the A flag, and sometimes you'll spawn here if you only hold the C flag, but it is relatively rare. The reason I have it this color and I do label it as a shared spawn is this spawn can really catch people off guard sometimes. This is a spawn where you're most likely to spawn at when you only hold the B flag. So just be aware of this spawn because it is over towards the C side of the map. It doesn't look like it's anywhere near the B flag, and it kind of looks like people that hold the B flag have no business spawning here. But they do, so just be aware of this spawn. Alright, so now that we've covered all of the most common spawns on this map, it's time to test your guys' knowledge of how the spawns work on Stormfront. In this first test, the green players hold A and B, and they've kind of got the red players locked into their spawn at C. Where would a red player spawn right now? I'll give you guys a few seconds to make a decision. If you picked one of these 3 spawns right here, then you're most likely correct. Let's go over why that is. So the first thing we want to look at with this is which ones of the C spawns are clearly blocked by green players, and as you can see, that's these 3 spawns right here. This leaves us with 3 remaining C spawns, and out of these 3, it could honestly be any one of these 3. I'm leaning a little bit more towards the one on the right hand side just because there's 3 red players anchored towards that direction, but just from my experience, it could be any one of these 3. For the second test, we're going to leave the situation exactly the way it is, but we're just going to say that this green guy right here gets killed. Where will this green guy spawn right now? Once again, I'll give you guys a few seconds to make your decision. Did you pick this spawn right here? If so, you're most likely correct. Let's once again go over why that is. So the big thing I want to look at here, since the red players aren't really blocking any or many of the green spawns, is just where the green players are anchored towards. So if we were to draw a circle around the green players right now, you'll notice that there's only 2 spawns within that circle, and one of those spawns is kind of dangerously close to being blocked off by the red player on the stairs, and that is why it is almost definitely going to be this spawn right here. Okay, so those first 2 tests were quite easy, but for the final test, we're going to take away the spawn points, and we're going to change up the situation a little bit. In this situation, the red team holds C and B, and they're really pushing hard towards A, and they have the green players all contained at the A flag. Where would a green guy spawn right now? I'll give you guys a few seconds to make your choice. If you said this spawn right here, then you're correct. Let's go over why that is. Alright, so first, let's look at all of the spawns that are clearly blocked off by red players, and that is every single spawn except this one at the A flag. Remember though, this spawn, it looks like it maybe should be blocked by red player just looking at the map, but this spawn is on the bottom level, so the red player on the top level there does not have a line of sight on him. So this is why this spawn is still a safe spawn, and they are going to be spawning at this spawn. If this spawn were blocked as well, then they would definitely flip over to either a C spawn or that shared spawn that's down in that bottom right corner. So that's going to wrap it up for today's episode of Spawn Guides. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.